Happy Monday, peoples. How y'all doing? No, really. How are you doing? It's been a long couple weeks for everybody, and with everything going on, do me a favor and just do a quick little check on yourself, and then maybe check in on one friend. Maybe that one friend that always seems to say they have everything together and everything's fine and great, and they make sure to make it look like that on Instagram, but it's weird out there in the wild. Don't take your mental health or theirs for granted. Do a quick little system check for me, okay? Part of my daily system check, and you probably guessed it, is getting coffee in the morning. And yes, I know the technology exists to make my own unicorn coffee at home, but the reality is that drive to Primo kind of lets me decompress, and seeing the same peeps most mornings, it's just a great way to start my day. In fact, coffee is arguably so critical to getting through tough times, it was literally one of the most important commodities during the Civil War. In 1865, Ebenezer Gilpin, a Union cavalryman, wrote in his diary, "Everything is chaos here. The suspense is almost unbearable. We're reduced to quarter rations and no coffee, and nobody can soldier without coffee." Don't end up like Ebenezer, an unable to soldier throughout your day. Head over to PrimoEspressoTiger.com or Primo Espresso on the old Instagram and get your coffee rations squared away immediately. No one knows what happened to Ebenezer in the end, but I'm willing to bet if he had coffee, he made it out okay. Speaking of cavalry and army, this week's episode is actually a two-parter with the Army. I had the honor of sitting down with three badasses up at Joint Base Lewis-McChord, and I don't say this lightly when I say this episode is absolutely amazing. They are three of the smartest people the Army has to offer, and we talk about all of the new H2F, that's the holistic health and fitness system that the Army's put together. The Army's philosophy is all about putting people first and that winning matters. And that means when they put together their teams of people, they are going to be highly trained, disciplined, and incredibly fit. The H2F system is the Army's primary investment in making their soldiers ready by being in optimal physical and mental performance capabilities. They want to reduce injuries, they want to improve their rehabilitation after an injury, and increasing the overall effectiveness of the total Army is the ultimate goal. Alycia, Zack, and Paul were a huge part of the H2F pilot program, and we go through it all in a two-part episode, honestly, because we had so much to talk about, there's no way to pack it all into one. But there are a couple things that are different about this episode. The first is there are some sections during the conversation that had to be redacted. So you'll hear a few beeps from time to time. And the second is, if you're watching, Paul didn't have time to swap into non-uniform clothing, so I had to blur him out for the duration of the podcast, which is really a shame too, because as you will hear and unfortunately not be able to see, his hair is quite literally spectacular. And there's also this statement that I have to read, you're probably going to hear a couple more times. The views expressed are those of the individuals and do not reflect the official policy or position of the U.S. Army, Department of Defense, or the U.S. government. Maybe I should have led the intro with that, but oh well. You're going to hear it again in a minute anyway, so I think we're covered. But that's enough. Enough lead up. Let's get to it. Fitness Nomads, Season 2, Episode 4 with Alycia, Zack, Paul from H2F is loaded and ready to fire right now. Screen, that's the anti-COVID screen.
It's okay. Zack got all of his grease on it 2
All the
seconds ago.
juices.
Mine, not yours.
I said all of
You're
his.
perfect.
All right.
That's a big paragraph. Do you want me to read that?
No. It's this little top.
Oh, do you want to read it or do you want me to read it?
You can read it.
Oh, that's exciting.
Or I can read it. What do you want to read it? You can read it. It's literally so we just have to
How
replace
about we both read it and then we do a poll online of who read it better?
Yes. You just have to replace author basically with like individuals and then Air Force with Army.
Or just say Air Force.
So the views expressed are those of the individuals and do not reflect the official policy or position of the U.S. Army, Department of Defense, or the U.S. government. Okay, your turn. We're going to do this as a vote.
Okay.
It's going to be great. You're going to win.
Good actor voice, Paul.
The views expressed are those of the individuals and do not reflect the official policy or position of the U.S. Army, Department of Defense, or the U.S. government.
I feel like you need to try it again and say it louder. You're not going to get as many votes that way.
It was. I feel like it was loud enough. I was
How
like
about
up
this?
against it.
Your turn.
Oh, okay. All right.
Don't
Now-
fuck up the
Now,
words.
now it's a four-way horse race.
Coach voice.
It's not going to be loud. The views expressed are those of the author and do not reflect the official policy or position of the U.S. Army,
You
Department of Defense, or Zachary.
Are we
the US
authors?
Government.
We're not authors.
It says
I was
author.
using that.
to individual.
Oh,
Yeah,
Goddamn.
I was using that as an
Well,
example.
Here I am.
The views expressed are those of the individuals and do not reflect the official policy or position of the United States Army, Department of Defense, or the U.S. government.
Not bad. That's
That was
not bad at
pretty
all.
good.
I
That was a
definitely
good
think
one.
I
That
won
was pretty good.
because I messed it up.
I think
and
I
laughed
definitely
about it. Thank you.
All right, I like that a lot.
That's
This
done
is
now.
the fun stuff.
I started it
That's
off
done
top.
now.
You started, yeah.
I started
Now I
it,
can
and then
talk
it-
about like
It went downhill from there.
hookers and blow.
I need to not get
Cocaine.
myself in trouble.
See, we're good. We're in the trust tree now. We're safe.
Yeah,
I like it.
I'm
I don't
trust
know
tree.
if
Right?
Are we
Yeah,
in the
it's the
trust?
trust tree.
The trust tree.
Dude,
Quadrangle.
awesome. You get, like,
It's not
seriously, thank you so much. You in particular, because, I mean, this was a lot of coordinating. Just
A lot of back and
because
forth.
I'm high maintenance, so
When
sorry.
did we start planning on this?
Oh,
It was in
Lord.
COVID.
We
It had to
talked
be
about
last
this.
winter.
It was,
Probably
yeah.
last
Shit.
November,
When you first started.
October, November. Yeah,
the
somewhere in there.
podcast.
Yeah. So probably somewhere in there, because I think
Yeah.
the first episode came out in December, but we were
Mhm.
recording like earlier than that. So
Yeah.
yeah, I mean, it was right back then, and just, man,
And then,
time flies when you're having COVID fun.
Yeah.
All
and
the
then
COVID fun.
I don't know. We tried to do it in May, and then
Yep.
he and I went to Summer Strong.
Summer camp.
Summer camp.
It was definitely
Weekend summer camp.
It was definitely like weekend summer
Strength
camp.
coach summer camp.
We got, I think, an average of 3 hours of sleep a night.
Perfect.
It was amazing, super awesome. But then that's where we couldn't.
Is it like
have-
Olympic Village? Is that why you got 3 hours of sleep?
I would say not like Olympic Village.
Exactly like it, except not.
Less fluid sharing.
Yeah. No, but it
That's
was
usually a plus.
man, Summer Strong, and it was Zach's first time at Summer Strong, and it was actually really funny because Zach had to be here on Friday. I flew in Thursday night, and the conference started Friday, and then Zach was supposed to fly in on Friday, and he had a layover in Atlanta.
You.
And Zach, you can tell the rest of the
I had
story.
You can tell the rest nice and close to the mic too.
I had
There
a
you
3 or a 4 hour layover in Atlanta, and it was a 3 hour drive from Atlanta to Lexington.
Whew.
So
Good food on the way though.
I rented a car.
Yeah.
And just didn't get on my flight and drove to Lexington. Got there, had a good time. Come to find out, I forget who I flew, but when you miss one of your flights, the rest of your ticket gets canceled.
Oh.
So I drove back to Atlanta, turned my rental car in, and my wife doesn't know any of this story. This is the best part. Walk up to the counter, and the lady goes, "Did you miss your flight?" And I was like, "Yeah, I had some issues. Rented a car, drove." And she goes, "You can't do that.
You're not
honey."
getting on.
I'm not. Yeah, exactly. And
Oh,
she
yeah.
goes, "Hold on. I'm gonna charge you $75. We're gonna get you back on your old ticket because it's the only one still open."
Oy.
And so we got back.
and then
And then this is Alicia's
this is
favorite
the best
part.
part. So we had this whole plan where Zach and I had the same flight back from South Carolina to Washington. So we're like on the same flight,
You'd be
whatever.
plane buddies.
Right. That was like our whole just, thing. So obviously he had to change his situation. I get flown from South Carolina up to Dulles. Right. And then I lay over there, and then I was going Dulles all the way to Seattle. So get to Dulles, about to get on the plane. The plane has a ton of, we get on the plane, then there's this long wait, and then they're like, we need to deplane everyone because we're having some mechanical issues, and there's a very important light that's not going off.
It's probably because you're in some place called Dulles.
Yeah.
Where's Dulles?
Up in Washington,
Washington,
D.C.
D.C.
Washington D.C.
I've
Yeah.
never heard of that.
Don't go. It's not great. Stay away from
Starts
Dulles.
dull.
It can't be worse than Philly.
That's fair. Philly's pretty bad. So anyway, so this light is just not going off, and this is like a big problem. So we end up waiting at the airport for like 2 hours, get on another flight. I'm delayed, obviously. So when Zach picks me up, it's like 11 p.m.
Oy.
We have to work the next morning. And so we get to Zach's house. It's like 11:45. It's somewhere very close to midnight. I sleep on the couch. And the one thing I asked of Zach was, do not wake me up tomorrow morning before I need to be up.
Which is what time?
What? We were leaving at...
What time did you want to be woken up is what I would say. Because I can tell you what time I got up and what time.
I think the intent of it, we were to leave at what, 5? 5:10?
5.
We were going to leave at 5. So I was like, wake me up at like 4:45, and then I will just get up and go. 4 a.m. rolls around.
Which she fails to mention. I told her I have to cook something to eat during this day. I was like, I'll be as quiet as I can. And I come downstairs. It's like 4:10 because I had to brush my teeth and
It
get my
was
clothes on and all
4:07.
that. I open the cabinet and I literally like touch a pot, and she goes, "Are you serious?" And I was just like, well, okay. And she didn't talk to me until about 1 p.m. that day.
That's fantastic.
After that,
It was like he stomps downstairs, number
oh dear
one.
Lord,
Stomped downstairs, and then it was boom. And I was like, you've got to be kidding me.
I'm not going to judge you for being a large mammal. That's not your fault. It's not your fault at all.
Whose side are you on?
I'm on the side of neutral because honestly, that was all the prelude to like why this took so long for us to.
he's on the side of right.
That's fair. That's fair. Paul, do you have any
Which
weigh
is
in?
why, Paul, we are now sitting here in August and not May because of a flight to Dulles, otherwise known as Dull.
Okay, I'm confused about how that whole story. What is this story?
It's just
Supposedly we're gonna do this in May.
We're gonna do it before Memorial Day, before Murph, and then we're gonna try to coordinate all that, and then it just kind of went poof because of all of that.
Gotcha.
So there you go.
All right.
But now we're here and you're here, and you're
Yeah,
the best
I'm
part of this
here.
podcast.
Because I don't think you
I'm
could have come
here
down
now.
on Memorial Day, so this is awesome.
Yeah.
'Cause
Probably
I get to
not.
come up here. So
Yeah.
it's even
Just
better.
full
It's like a field
disclosure,
trip.
Paul
Yeah.
is the best part of this podcast.
That's all. Paul's the best part of all of my podcasts because
Now I'm uncomfortable.
well, so
What are
here's
we-
the fun part. One of my absolute favorite people, besties, is named Paul.
Okay.
And he's down back home. And the kind of running joke for the whole season is that we're doing all of the introductions to the podcast this year. Like who are you and who am I talking to? For Paul, because he gives me constant shit for like, hey, you know everybody? We don't. And it takes like 20 minutes to figure out who everybody is. So, you know, the entire season, the introductions are dedicated to my friend Paul. But for today, we can dedicate it to you and actually start with you. It's like it's a Paul smorgasbord.
Sweet.
Lots of Paul.
So
Start
who
with
are
me.
you?
Who am I? So my name's Paul. Start
Hi,
off
Paul.
with that. So as far as position goes, right now I am the H2F nutrition program manager for.
Okay.
So basically, person in charge of nutrition for
Okay.
H2F, which is Holistic Health and Fitness, a system out here that is trying to improve overall soldier readiness. Right. I don't know how familiar your
A little bit, but
listeners are with
assuming that
H2F.
nobody knows when they're listening, that's how I try to preface everything. So I might ask dumb questions because I'm either dumb or I just want the answer for somebody that might not know.
Right.
Treat me like I'm an idiot, and it works perfect.
Yeah, so been out here for about 2 years. Spent a year in the hospital, and spent a year now.
He was working in the
H2F.
hospital. He wasn't actually in the
Okay,
hospital.
good. Yeah, I was gonna
Clarification point. Working.
Yeah, working in the hospital.
Okay.
I did not spend a year in the
That's-
hospital.
those are not
I've been
hospital.
healthy.
This is
Yeah,
so much better.
yeah. So background, I guess, born and raised Minnesota. Did my undergraduate at University of Wisconsin. Go Badgers.
Go Badgers.
Yeah, that's right. And then did my graduate degree through the Army down in San Antonio, but it was through Baylor University.
Okay, so Baylor. Okay,
yeah.
cool. That's
Yep.
awesome. So you've got a master's in nutrition?
Correct. Nutritional sciences.
Okay,
Yeah.
so you're taking care of everything that everybody shoves in their face or not.
Correct. Yeah.
Awesome.
I mean, trying.
I'm
to,
sure it's super easy.
trying to coerce them to change what they're shoving in their face. Yeah.
Right? Yeah.
Yeah.
No, that's we joke about this all the time, but that's the hardest part because you guys can yell at them for an hour and they'll do everything you say because you know what, right? But the other 23 that's like,
Right.
Yeah, you just blew it. Like,
Right.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Cool. Well, I'm glad you're here. I'm
Yeah.
glad we were
Glad
able
to be
like,
here.
rope you in.
Yeah.
So there's one. Here's two right in the middle.
My name is Alycia. Full disclosure, I don't like talking about myself, so this is gonna be fun.
It's perfect. That's why you're in the middle.
Amazing.
Love it. So I get to work with Paul every day. Technically, I am the brigade lead strength and conditioning coach at. What that looks like job-wise is we work with with anything related to physical training, whether that's PT in the morning, whether that's working with guys during lunch, helping soldiers develop PT plans, coordinating readiness day events. We'll do stuff like that. We'll actually lead like a workout first Wednesday of every month. Personally, I am from Massachusetts, so I don't know if that makes me the best or worst.
Which part of Massachusetts?
You know where the greatest football team ever plays?
As in
Foxborough?
the New England Patriots.
The New England Patriots. Yep. Although they're kind
Great
of
season
on the,
last year,
They're on
right?
the downhill, so I
It's
don't.
okay.
Yeah.
It's all Tom Brady, baby.
We
Now,
can-
are you
we
still a
can
Tom Brady
discuss that.
fan?
Oh man.
Right?
So
That's hard.
I had like this very big conflict with myself when he left because I was like, do I love Tom Brady or do I love the Patriots or do I love
Right.
both? And so I think with how much success Tom Brady's had, I respect him as an athlete, and so I can't take that away. So I still love Tom Brady. I won't cheer for the Bucks, but I'll cheer for Tom Brady.
There you go. See, that's a good. That's like,
yeah.
do I love the chocolate chip cookie or just the ingredients? And if I take chocolate chips
Yeah.
out, do I love the chocolate chips the most, or is it the whole thing put together?
I'd probably still eat the cookie.
I'd probably still eat the cookie too, but then I'd be like, I still like the chocolate
Yeah.
chips. So Tom Brady's
Yeah.
your chocolate chip.
Yeah, basically.
Yeah.
So like super happy that he's got to win a Super Bowl and this, that, and the other thing.
I'll make sure and let him know.
Yeah,
You're okay with
that'd be awesome. And then Patriots. I mean, yeah, big Boston sports fan. And then how I got here, man, I was in collegiate for a bit. And then I ended up like randomly visiting a friend of Zack and mine after I graduated from my master's program in DC. It was just like, hey, you got this nice slip of paper. Let's go take yourself on a vacation. Thought I was going to Seattle, and I really ended up here for a week.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Also known as not Seattle.
Yeah, very different.
Oh, actually, because people are listening, where are we?
we're in, would you say Lakewood?
We'll
We're in Tacoma.
We'll call it Tacoma. Yeah.
So we're about like 35, 40 minutes south of Seattle. If you don't count traffic, if you count traffic, we're
4
about
hours.
2 hours south of Seattle. So I, ended up here for about a week visiting, and that's where I met Zach. Just kind of talked to people, and it was, hey, maybe at some point you can come back up here and get a job and this, that, and the other thing. And as of March of 2020, things worked out in my favor, and I ended up here right in time for COVID.
Yes.
So
Winning.
it was pretty funny because I had just gotten out of a relationship. I was moving up to a state that I knew one person. And
Where'd you go to undergrad?
Hamilton College.
Okay, and then you did your master's there also?
I did my master's at George Washington in DC.
Okay.
Yep.
Social
Yeah.
Little Dulles.
Old Dulles.
Is that? Is that a big city?
It's a big airport.
It's a big airport.
It's like all the international flights.
That's like DC's airport.
Kind of. It's like the east, one of the more,
Okay, well,
northeast.
I'm the fucking
Dulles,
idiot.
JFK, New York, DC, and then
Logan.
Logan.
Logan's gonna be a
and,
big one.
And then Carolina's like the next closest big
Yeah.
one, right? Yeah.
Dulles is like a lot of international flights from the West Coast to like Europe.
Yeah,
Well,
so
West
Coast.
yeah,
East Coast.
East
No,
Coast.
from if you're going from the
Oh,
West
west
Coast
to
to Europe.
east to
Oh,
Europe.
it's a
Gotcha.
stop.
I thought
If you're going West
yeah.
Coast to Europe, you're gonna probably stop in Dulles or Logan or one of the surrounding, and then pop over to Europe.
Okay.
Is that the name of the city though?
No, it's just the name of the airport.
Okay.
That's pretty awesome. So that's quite
the
the
city's
that's quite the
Washington,
Odyssey
DC.
quest from all the way the furthest point away, really, like
Yeah.
on the northeast, all
Yeah.
the way to the northwest.
So it's actually pretty funny. I went from
you could have
Massachusetts.
stopped in Wisconsin in the middle.
I could have.
Like,
I
that
probably
would've-
should have.
Yeah.
Nobody goes there.
Good beer.
Everyone leaves there. You notice that?
Yeah, but like,
Leaves Wisconsin? I would love to go back there. Good beer, good cheese. That's all
They
you
do
need.
have good
cheese
good,
there.
good fishing.
Go
the Badgers. So I ended up going from like Massachusetts. Stop touching my foot.
It's an accident.
That was weird. Massachusetts to New York to down to DC, back up to Mass, down to DC, over to Denver, up here.
Okay.
So and that was all in the span of about like 4 years. So I got very good at like moving. If it didn't fit in my Prius, it probably wasn't coming with me. Oh yeah,
You
Yeah.
were like pre-prepared for the Northwest having a Prius already.
basically. And then I got here and realized I needed a truck. So
Yeah, right.
there's
You got
that.
up here and realized you had a truck.
Yeah.
You get in a couple other cities. It's like, oh, you're gonna fit in just
yeah.
fine.
So yeah. So I'm here. Love working with Paul. And yeah, I think that's all about me.
That's awesome.
It's a lot about you.
That's
Zachary.
awesome. So she already hinted at your guys' past background connection, but
Yeah. I'm Zach Nielsen.
God,
I've
nice and
been. This is
I know.
weird.
Just-
It's
I
weird
know,
getting
just-
close. I'm actually from here.
okay.
I'm a little bit of an Army brat. My dad was active duty for close to 10 years and then joined the Guard and stayed there for another 24.
Wow.
Yeah. He
Okay.
and my mom are both from here, so we ended up right back where everybody grew up. Oddly enough, like we have all my relatives from like the 1800s buried on the hill up in Renton. Yeah,
That's amazing.
it's pretty cool.
So you're OG.
Yeah, I'm
Yeah, like
Western
Oregon Trail.
Washington,
Like,
yeah.
hey, we're gonna go right. You go left. We'll see you later. Like, wow.
Yeah, so I did the college strength thing as well. I was a hammer thrower in undergrad, and then did my graduate assistantship at the same school at Eastern Washington University over near Spokane.
Eastern. Okay.
Mhm. Took a brief 18-ish month detour in central Louisiana to go be a college strength coach.
Okay.
Had my oldest daughter down there, and my wife and I said, screw this, let's move back to the Northwest. And I got to go back and coach at Eastern again, which
That's
was cool.
rad.
And then one of my old coworkers, who was our boss for a bit, is my boss currently, gave me a call to come out and do the tactical thing. And with my relationship with the military and the much better work schedule, and I'm a pretty family oriented individual, so the time being a biggest thing, it just made sense to come over, and been here since.
So are both of you CSCS?
Yeah.
Okay. Is that a requirement for this
Yeah.
position too? I kind
You
of
were
figured
too,
it would be.
On paper.
Otherwise known as CECs or lacking.
On paper.
Paul's a pretty good coach.
Technically.
He doesn't give himself enough credit, but
Yeah.
like here because there are only 2 strength coaches, we've asked kind of some of them to come help coach when we're short or if we have a lot more guys, and
Right.
and Paul is one of those guys. So don't discredit yourself, Paul.
I know. I mean, like on paper. I say on paper
Yeah.
because I haven't coached in a collegiate level. I haven't necessarily like done a lot of coaching, and that's not my primary position.
Right. But you got
I
a
have
foundation
I have the
there.
foundational
Yeah.
knowledge, yeah. But would I be comfortable taking a team and programming for them, probably not
It's okay.
at this point, right?
Most of the CSs right out of the gate aren't either. It's
Oh, it's terrible.
Yeah,
I was
yeah.
terrible. I'm sure you were
Oh,
terrible.
yeah.
It's, if you're not in an apprenticeship type role
Yeah.
where you're learning from somebody that actually knows what they're doing,
Yeah.
you don't know what you don't know, and that's can be dangerous
Absolutely.
for sure. So,
Yeah.
with your guys' background in collegiate athletics, your background with you got a shared kind of language there. Do you find this to be very similar, like close to the collegiate team concept, or completely different and just its own animal?
From a staffing standpoint, yes.
Okay.
Other than this year, we're just completely outmanned. Even once all the new contractors get in, all the coaches and athletic trainers that are inbound now, we're looking at like 1 to 350 soldiers.
Wow.
Yeah, and that's a good day.
Mhm.
Currently, their brigade's small. Like I work with, we have soldiers in the brigade I work with, and there's
Because you're
two-
infantry, right?
yeah,
Okay.
and there's 2 coaches.
Okay.
So
And
we lean
350 is
No, so we have about
like even then,
so almost not quite half, but close.
but
Yeah.
ridiculous
Yeah.
numbers. And I mean, anywhere you go, any unit you go, it doesn't matter if it's on the SOCOM side. They've had this stood up with the Thor 3 program for a number of years, or if you are H2F, which is brand new, it's just the way that the government and everybody has determined that we can work in that capacity. So it's just kind of the reality that we deal with of there's way more of them than there will ever be us.
yeah.
HF is also a pretty new entity. It's only really been around since like what 2017.
Okay.
And that was a pilot program for 18 months. Correct me if I'm wrong.
I couldn't even tell you
I
because
think probably 18, 24 months.
It's also COVID math. Like 1 year feels like 10.
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
5 minutes feels like
Yeah.
5 hours.
So like I didn't start. Paul started at 4. I did. You've been here since what? October.
Dude, I don't know.
September, October?
Yeah.
Yeah, and like I got here, we transitioned over. I was at a unit prior to this, and we transitioned over in November, and we didn't really get off the ground until probably January or February. So, and now it's August, so we're still very, very new. And there's still a lot of things that like people just don't know about the H2F program as a whole, or like all the services that are offered. So, we're about, I don't know, 10, 15 years behind
10.
special
Mhm.
operations, and probably like 30 to 35.
Almost 40 if you count when the NSCA was
Yeah.
If you count when the NSCA was founded. 1985 was when strength and conditioning became
Right.
an actual profession.
yeah.
And now we are year
Yeah.
almost 3 of a actual kind of real program with the conventional army at least.
Yeah. So we have a lot of ground we can make up kind of in that regard.
So my memory's fuzzy because I'm old. I know that the Army fitness standard, the test itself changed within the last couple of years, right? Is that a piece of this sort of wholesale, let's coach everybody up and
I'd say yes and no.
okay.
Yes in the timing of everything because we switched over to the Army Combat Fitness Test, the ACFT.
Yeah.
Around the same time we were operating in the pilot program for H2F.
Okay. So coincidental, not coincidental.
But at least from what we've seen, what we've been told, it's not we're not the ACFT guys. We're
Right.
not here just to worry about that. It's just kind of, from what we're seeing or being told, it seemed like the right time given the transition of new physical training test or new PT test to
Okay.
implement this program at the same time.
That makes sense. And on the nutrition side, where do you end up falling in? Because if it's I mean, the training side is, and we'll talk injury prevention, all that kind of stuff first. I mean, that's an acute thing. Yours is more global system of what are you putting in your face? What aren't you putting in your face? And why not? So where does that plug into this scenario?
System.
Yeah.
So on the nutrition side, a couple different ways, right? We have the dining facilities, but that honestly doesn't reach the majority of our soldiers because a lot of them aren't on meal cards. So a lot of them honestly don't eat at the dining facilities. We do work with them, but ultimately we don't have control even over our own dining facility that's run by a completely separate entity. So an entity. So we can make suggestions and we can work with them, but ultimately the menus and stuff, like we don't control that. So that's a little bit more challenging. Our biggest impact is one-on-one soldier counseling. Also working with the Army Body Composition Program folks. So those individuals who are flagged as being like over body composition standards, they come in, do one-on-one counseling, give them a nutrition plan, work with the coaches, right? So then they're in here strength training as well. We give them a nutrition plan that goes with that. And then also they can go speak to our occupational therapist about stress management, sleep. Once we get all that under control, we see a lot of success.
Okay.
Also, obviously, like we go out to the units, do classes, do things like that. General information, really just more to spark interest, to work with soldiers who are interested on that more individual level.
So do you see one of, in the, I will say the not the real world, but the outside off base world of just civilians, do you see parallels there with issues, where people using food as a coping mechanism, as a control mechanism is the biggest issue, because society wise, the biggest issue, overeating, too many calories, the wrong kind of stuff, rarely is it under eating, but then on the athletic side, especially kids, they tend to under eat. But I mean, is it parallel? Like, is it just like a mini society where it's like, hey, most of the people are struggling with just like too much, or how does that break down for the majority?
Yeah, I would say yes overall. I would say there probably is a lot more disordered eating in the military compared to the general population, just due to height and weight standards. So you see a lot of soldiers, they don't have a good nutrition plan, and then they decide, oh, I have height and weight next month. Let me starve myself and use laxatives.
Oh shit, and literally go shit, and then drop weight and cut weight, and so that's super healthy.
Yeah, so we see a lot of like yo-yo dieting in the military. I would say probably more than the general population.
Interesting.
Yeah, so that's something of concern too. Is how do we approach this in a way so we don't cause more issues and with the disordered eating, but also really
push them over.
Focus on the performance aspect. And I think that's where we do a really good job as far as H2F goes with the whole team. I can set goals with them, and then they can work with occupational therapy to talk about, hey, I walk them over there and I go, hey, they're dealing with this stressor. Food might be their coping mechanism. Can you work with them on their stress management? And then we kind of all work as a team and then focus on the performance aspect more than necessarily just like weight and eating that height and weight standard.
Which has got to be nice for you guys, because then you can be the practical application of that adjustment to where it's like, hey, look, your numbers just improved. These numbers that are positive numbers, not so much chasing a called body negativity scale, but whatever, where it's like, hey, your 2K time went down, your deadlift went up, your performance. I mean, that's got to be nice to have that kind of a holistic, everybody's on the same page approach when it comes to the practical application of picking stuff up and put stuff down.
I think the thing that comes to mind is like helping soldiers create sustainable practices. And that's where I think especially like within our team, we do a really good job of communicating across the board. And given that our offices are all super close together, it's very easy for, me to walk down the hall to Paul and say, hey, like, this person's doing slightly more volume. Like, do we need to adjust his nutrition plan based off of X, Y, and Z? Or, hey, this guy wants to do 2-a-days. Like, are you accounting for that? And so we are always communicating to each other with each other, kind of about soldiers. And that helps us all be on the same page. So when it comes to like a holistic approach, like I can design a training program for an individual based off of like his goals, and also making sure that I'm communicating with like athletic training and occupational therapy and physical therapy and nutrition to make sure we're all on the same page and we're not missing something about the soldier that like is very important. Because at the end of the day, training is training, but if you don't have the lifestyle factors, training doesn't matter. Right. If you're not fueling and you're not taking care of business outside of these walls, it's almost irrelevant what you're doing here. I mean, this is as close as anything I've ever seen to what a professional sports team approach is, where you've got sports psychologists, sports nutritionists, your advanced level training and fitness. I mean, it's a whole, because they're professional athletes and they're paid. I mean, in kind of a way, so is everybody up here. I mean, that's the only thing I've ever seen else. I mean, pro teams being private sector, but I've never even heard of a approach like that you're coaching high school, but nobody at the high school does that. Nobody at the public level really does that.
At least not in this area of the country.
Yeah, I mean, I know down in Texas, but you start getting, it's like that's high school's still professional sports down there. But
at least from what I've seen throughout the Midwest and everything, and in Texas and some in the Southeast, there's a lot more of a, if we're expecting, we're trying to prepare everybody from a high school athlete standpoint to go compete in college, and now that college is basically a paid club system,
right?
We're gonna start seeing a lot more people take things a lot more seriously at a younger age. and most of the rest of the country does. It's just not that sport culture doesn't exist as much up here in the Northwest outside of like distance running.
Because it rains all the time.
Yes.
And there's not as many people.
It doesn't rain all the time. That's myth.
As far as everyone else in the country is concerned, it rains all the time here, and you don't want to move here.
I joke.
We tell people, yeah.
I'm like, it only rains once a year, November through June. Like, it's only once a year.
It's accurate.
It's just constant.
Yeah.
We just don't
Sunny
want
days
people
are
to
bright
move.
gray.
Yeah, we just don't want people to move up here. So we'll like take a photo of the mountain that's clear as day and say it's raining a lot right now.
Yeah, that's a painting. It's not real.
Yeah,
Exactly.
it's all fake.
It hangs in my my living room.
Please don't come up.
So you guys get and literally it's a hallway. Like you guys are up and down the hall from each other.
Mm-hmm.
You mentioned, you've got some people that want to do 2-a-days. You get some people on a volume training. Are those programs that you're putting together based on them needing to hit standards that they're going to be tested on, or is it like personal? Like, hey, I've got this whatever job, we'll make whatever position up that they have to do, and there's certain things they need to do for work, right? Whether that's whatever, right, mechanic or infantry, what, right? How does that? Because when you get numbers. I mean, when you got that many people and you're working one-on-one, but there's got to be it can't just be 100 individuals going different directions, right? I mean,
Right.
I would assume they're going towards something relatively similar as each other.
So that's a great question. So there are kind of two components to that. The first one is like PT in the morning.
Okay.
When we were just starting out, we kind of had different companies on different programs, just based on what I thought they needed, this, that, and the other thing. I'm not going to say it was the wrong move, but it was certainly a learning lesson when we started to get more bodies in here, and suddenly you have 4 different companies on 4 different programs, and you need to warm everyone up and then explain 4 different programs, and you're the single person there.
And what directed the 4 different programs? Was it individual companies on their own kind of?
So the way this started was when I got here, we just started to build relationships, which is like the biggest thing. Build relationships, get people to understand kind of what we do here within H2F, and then if they want to, and that's a really big thing, is if they want to utilize us in the morning, they can come on over. We'll provide them with a program, and then we'll start training. We'll coach them up, kind of teach their NCOs how to do stuff. So that was the biggest thing, is like we had companies and like first sergeants and company commanders coming over and say, hey, like we would like to work with you guys in the morning. Like, is there space? Can we do this? So that's where we started to grow. And that ultimately comes down to just being able to build relationships with people, which is, as I just said, like the most important part of our job here. So we, like, one company came in, we started to work with them, put them on a program. Then another company came in. I was like, oh, you're different. I need to put you on a different program. And then it just started growing got to a point where I was like, this is not the
You were
right
saying
move.
like 75 people in here. If there's divided by 4, like
It's crazy.
That's a little rough.
Yeah, so then what we ended up doing in the morning is just making a very generic, like, strength training program that's vertically integrated. So, like, you're going to throw stuff, you're going to have a strength block, you're going to have kind of muscular endurance on the back end, covering all the physical qualities. And then that's way easier because, 1, it's easier for the soldiers to understand. 2, I can step back and put out, like, the big fires and let the NCOs put out the little fires.
Okay.
So that is the morning. And then when we get to like lunchtime, because we have lunchtime groups, that's where programs become slightly more individualized based off of like what people's goals are, based off of, what people are trying to achieve, if they're trying to go to school, this, that, and the other thing. And that's where we'll start to individualize it a little bit more. Like we have a first sergeant that came in that was just like, I just really want to look good with my shirt off.
Yeah.
And I was like, yeah, man, like
without
for
the
sure.
lights off, right?
For sure.
Lights actually on. Yeah.
Yeah.
That works for me. I just turn
no
the lights
angles.
off, like, man, I'm fantastic.
And so
No
like
angles.
all the angles,
All the angles.
all the right angles at the right times.
One light on, slightly far
Right.
away.
A little bit elevated, so you
Yeah.
some downward shadow
Yep.
to make everything look more cut.
Absolutely.
See, we're on the same way.
Paul knows. Look at him. He's like, I do that. I'm doing it tonight.
Right.
So yeah, so like,
Foiled my evening.
so the individually kind of program will be more like lunchtime, and like I will meet with them, or the other strength coach here will meet with them, and like, hey, what do you want? And then we'll put them on a program tailored to kind of where they want to be.
Okay.
But we also, if they're training with us in the morning or they're doing other training, like we make sure that program is supporting what they're doing, and we're not providing like conflicting systems.
Burying them where they can't.
Exactly.
Yeah. I mean, that's again, sounds very similar to a team where it's like, hey, the goal is to play the game, not to be a workout warrior in shorts and, you know, the weight room. I would assume that, I mean, that makes very clear sense as to where then you plug into that, especially the individual side. But then I would assume the project people are probably easier to manage because it's super specific, and the generalized stuff is a little bit more difficult. But what would a generalized, like you're kind of saying they show up for morning PT and it's kind of the general, where you got 30 people or whatever, the general program that they like, walk me through, like, what would that look like after breakfast? Or we'll talk about breakfast, pre-fueling or not, but
that's a loaded conversation.
I kind of had a feeling
eating before PT.
Depends on if your dining facility opens up before PT or not.
So
I'll talk about what I do, and then Zach's a little bit different.
Vastly different,
and
unfortunately.
Keep in mind also, like, aviation, we work with aviators,
right.
And people that support kind of that and work in helicopters, and so that's one of the reasons why, like, is one of the coolest places to work with, because I get to go see a Black Hawk on the daily and learn about it, and
the things that go really fast.
Yeah, and the nerd that I am is like, tell me more. But so Zach works infantry, and so it's
all of them: infantry, cav, field artillery, word, like boots on the ground combat arms unit.
Yeah, so it's very, very different. So with that all being said, and I definitely just forgot the question you asked.
The general workout, like if you had a general PT thing, what would just a randomized general day? Is it like Metcon, Strength Con, or like interval? How do you kind of structure just a without giving away trade secrets?
So we're gonna do some type of like med ball, jumping, like very twitchy, very explosive movement with like a light or body weight kind of implement, and then we'll do some type of strength. So deadlift, bench press, squat. I kind of go back and forth on whether I want to use overhead press or not, but that's kind of like one of our main just strength blocks, and then everything on the back end is a little bit more high volume, and so you're looking at any type of accessory work. So if we, squatted as our main movement, we're probably going to do a little bit more upper body stuff in our accessory block, making sure we're getting like both bilateral and unilateral, making sure we're getting both horizontal and vertical push-pull. So over the course of the week, making sure we're just kind of filling in buckets to get all the foundational movement patterns in both, again, like bilateral and unilateral.
So Monday through Friday, and and it's progressive. I'm inferring that, like, if Monday you're doing ABC, you're not touching ABC directly till maybe the back end of the week, but you're going to do, DEF on Tuesday and just kind of keep moving through things so that by the end of the week, everything's more or less got the same. And then do you go week to week in like big 8-week blocks, or is it?
So actually, we only really train guys in the weight room because of how many people we have moving through this. We only really get companies in like twice a week.
Oh, okay.
So, and then
that's
running,
up to them on their own time?
We'll program like running stuff in addition, and then some companies like to ruck one day, some companies like to do like sports PT one day. So if I have 4 days a week, I'm going to use 2 days for strength training, and then 2 days are going to be kind of more conditioning work, and that may be different than what you do. Slightly, maybe. We'll talk about it. So that's kind of how we structure it. I will give guys a program and say, hey, like, this is kind of what we want you to do, and then if you're going to change it, this is how, like, these are the parameters, like either end, don't go past that.
So you aim for the middle and then can scale up or scale down based on the person or based on how that week's going for that person.
Exactly.
That's
and
awesome.
Also, keep in mind, like, within the military, a lot of these guys that we're working with don't have a large training background.
Okay.
So we had a couple guys in here that came in and don't have a lot of weight room experience. So
basically boot camp and then right to here.
Yeah. And so it's very, when we talk about like programming, we're looking at like, let's master the basics.
Okay.
We're not doing any type of Olympic lifting in here. It's like, you got to learn how to deadlift, you got to learn how to squat, you got to learn how to do a push-up the right way, stuff like that. And so we've stayed kind of very far away from like the sexy stuff because our guys just don't need it.
Kettlebells are hot. What are you talking about? I love kettlebells.
Kettlebells are, but kettlebells help us because we don't have dumbbells in here, so we just do kettlebell stuff instead. So yeah, I
feel that burden.
Yeah. So we keep it very, very simple, and simplicity works, right?
Simplicity and consistency.
And I would say that's probably the biggest thing, is just adherence to a program. Yeah. Like we had a company here that a new first sergeant came in. The company commander at the time had a lot of success within H2F. He went from a 490 to a 545 on the ACFT in like 8 weeks.
That's out of 600.
Out
For
of
those who
600.
don't understand.
Yeah.
That Alycia
describe
will
the
forget.
CFT in a second, because
Yeah.
I know that's good. That's
That's
a big improvement.
yeah,
fairly
yeah,
decent.
that's good.
Fairly
And
decent.
it was in a pretty short period of time, and like honestly all he really did was he stuck to the program that we wrote.
Yeah.
And I'm not reinventing the wheel. Like it's really not. I'm not throwing anything out there that's like mind-blowing. It's like very, very simple, but if you do it the right way and you follow the program, like results will happen. And so the first surgeon came in and we had a conversation. He's like, I don't know anything about H2F. Like, I don't know about your program. I kind of like what I'm doing, this, that, and the other. So he's like, I'll give you a month. Yep. And he was like, we're going to be in the weight room 2 days a week with you. We're going to run 2 days a week. But if we don't see progress in a month, then I'm not going to stick with H2F and move forward. We're going to do our own thing. I was like, okay, like, let's do it. And so
I kind of like that. Like,
it was
Let's feet to the fire, man.
yeah,
yeah,
it's
it was great.
Mm-hmm.
It was great because one, it allowed me to just seeing him twice a week and like walking down the hall and checking in. Hey, how are you feeling after this? Hey, how did this go? Like, we started to build a relationship off of that.
Right.
And again, like here, especially within the military, relationships are the single most important thing, because guys don't have to do any type of, for us, they don't have to do any type of like PT program that we write if they don't want to. Like, it's not mandated.
That's interesting. So it's got to be good. I mean, they got to have the buy-in.
Yeah, buying is huge.
That's no different than being a independent gym owner.
100%.
and needing word of mouth
100%.
to build your business. That's awesome.
So yeah, so like it allowed us over the course of the month to like build a relationship with each other, get to know each other pretty well. Like, this is how I coach, this is how I am outside of the weight room, this, that, and the other thing. End of the month, he ended up going from like 8 to 15 pull-ups. He went from 320 to 360 on his trap bar. He went from like 240 to 260 on his bench, and the bench was like the biggest win there because the dude,
He's a male in the army.
Because he's a dude and he wants to do upper body arm
Yeah.
squats. Yeah.
Why would you not want a
and
bench?
So it wasn't. We know you love your upper body work.
I don't even bench anymore.
All
Single
bicep curls.
flex through the
I don't even
uniform.
bench.
I don't
Can I-
even bench.
Let me just tear these sleeves off real quick so I can get going.
So yeah, so like it wasn't anything I did. It was more of the fact that like he stuck to the program and did things the right way and put in effort. And
You also put the right thing in front of him and kept it. I mean, you knew what you're talking about, because if you were full of shit, then it would have been, you would have been found out pretty quick.
what we did is he's a dude that really likes to feel like he got smoked at the end of the session. So we gave
Sometimes good, sometimes bad.
right, and but you'll see that a lot within the army. Guys are like, let's burn the house down. Ooh, that was a good workout. I got better.
Yeah.
But
I'll
they
do that again.
do it.
Every day.
Every day.
Right.
Twice a
it's-
day.
What's
Yeah.
recovery? Why would I do that? I can
That's
just
where
go
you
hard
fix the
again.
vehicles after you get back, right?
You mean you can't sleep for 4 hours a night and be okay?
Right, and be under caloried. Oh, weird. So I
Monster
would-
fixes everything.
all the stimulants.
Yeah.
So I know you're on the strength side, but while she's doing this with them, you're on the back end with that project, working the nutritional side.
Yeah, it's as far as big group nutrition goes, it's challenging.
Yeah.
like
Yeah.
because
Feeding an army.
yeah, right. There's very general things we put out, right? Like, hey, you probably shouldn't work out with this program in the morning and then not eat until 12:30.
Yeah.
Like, we should probably get some carbs and protein in at least after that workout. I don't care if it's small, we still need 30 maybe 40 grams of carbs and
Yeah.
60 grams of, or
So
excuse
your
me,
brain functions.
60 grams of carbs and 30 to 40 grams of protein, ideally, right? At a minimum. So just really educating them on the basics in that regard, finding ways, even like, hey, if you're on meal card, meaning there's soldiers that are supposed to eat at the dining facility, the majority of them don't, and then they go spend their own money, even though they're getting charged
Right.
for eating at the dining facility. It's like, hey, let's try it at least. I know you're used to MSG field fast food stuff, but let's try to do this. Lean protein, veggies, small amount of whole grain. Just really educate them on those basics from a big like unit standpoint.
Right.
And then those that are really like want to get better, have a specific goal as far as their body composition, their performance goes, we can work with them on an individual level and get them on like talk about more macronutrients, nutrient timing, specifics on when they're training, how much they're training, and how to recover best from those from a nutrition standpoint.
Being that you're enlisted and prescribe.
He's commissioned, sir.
I'm sorry.
That's
apologies.
okay.
My apologies.
That's the Army brat in me.
Can you write a diet or meal plan that they are required to follow, or is it purely voluntary with what they put in their face?
No. I mean, you
so
can't
go
force
full trash can if they wanted to.
Of course, yeah, you can't. I mean, I can't be there every minute of the day,
Yeah.
right? Ultimately, again, it comes down to building a relationship with them, so they trust you,
Right.
and then also being willing to do things that they want to do. So, like, oftentimes, like, I'll have soldiers and they're like, "I want to do keto," and I'm like, "Okay,
Why?
no, right? So let's go through the science. Let's look at possible benefits, because let's not deny the fact that there are some possible benefits
Yes.
in the weight loss department, right? Especially initially, right? Possible fat burning department, metabolic flexibility, things like that. But let's also look at performance outcomes. Maybe not the best, especially short-term explosive performance.
Right.
A lot of things that are on the ACFT are short-term explosive, performance measures there. I'll try it with them. I'll try to make them do it the safest, healthiest way possible.
Right.
Oftentimes they come back to me and go like, I can't do this forever.
like ass.
I go, okay, well,
Yeah.
let's try something
Not
new.
sustainable.
Try this other plan.
Yeah.
A little more balance there, and kind of see how that works for you. And then oftentimes they'll come back and be like, oh, like I like what we're doing now. So
That's awesome.
that's kind of how I work it from big group. It does get challenging.
Yeah.
Big things we hit are like, a lot of these guys don't understand that alcohol has calories.
Right.
Okay,
They're
let's
liquid.
talk about
It's
that.
crazy.
A lot of guys don't understand, right? Like basic, like read the nutrition label when you eat something. Basic things to look for on that. Basic things in regards to recovery and nutrition, protein and carbohydrates, preferably within an hour or two after a workout, right? Basic things like that, so they at least have kind of a general idea of how to fuel their bodies.
And is it all food based, or can you give them suggestions for supplements, or is that within the wheelhouse of allowed?
Yeah. So
I mean supplements like over the counter supplements, not like vitamin T and all the
Not behind
not,
back alley.
not the old
Steroids.
Gold's Gym,
Yeah.
no, like,
Yeah,
like
yeah,
AKAs
yeah.
Starter
and
pack.
stuff like that.
Yeah. So we do a lot of supplement education as
Okay.
well. That's another big topic that everybody wants to talk about, especially in the Army. They want a magic fix. We always tell them, right? This, I don't know. Can people see this? So like, this is where you
Camera in
can
front
be,
of you,
right? So if we get your sleep, your nutrition, and your training program down, this is where you could be at. Supplements might bring you here.
Right.
T and DECA, and all, I mean, now you're getting into something else. You're getting into exogenous hormones, right? Obviously, that's going to improve your performance and comes with other negative side effects to it. But yeah, supplements. There are some supplements that work. I know a lot of times there are a lot of dietitians maybe that like are very anti-supplement.
They'll shy away
I'm
from it.
personally not that, because I'm not going to deny the fact that there are supplements that can be effective if used properly.
Oh, absolutely.
And in a safe manner. And if you're just anti anything, like, and someone wants to do that, they're not gonna.
Sure.
You don't build that relationship.
Yeah.
They're automatically like,
That
oh,
makes
fuck
sense.
that guy, you know.
Yeah.
But
Well,
yeah.
and the quick fix, right? Supplements, it's like by definition supplemental, as in addition to, i.e.,
Yeah.
you've got the base.
Yeah.
You can't drive the car without gas. You got to put
Right.
gas in first. You can have all the octane boost you want, but there's no gas in the tank, so it
Right.
doesn't. People have a hard time with that because it's
not
easy.
sexy.
It's not. No, it's easy. It's like, oh, I can
Right.
scoop this powder in my water and just chug it, and I don't have to think about it. Like,
Yeah.
yeah, that'd be great, but we're not the Jetsons. Like,
Yeah.
I might have just dated myself on
Soon.
that one. Yeah,
No,
soon.
you're not that much older.
Okay,
I know
good.
the
That's
Jetsons.
good. Thank God.
I don't know the
But
Jetsons.
that's good to
Child.
hear, because I know for like a long time, it's it's kind of the prison diet, 3 hots and a cot. It's like, oh,
Yeah.
you get food and you don't forget the rest of the stuff, and that, as things have evolved, that's good. That is part of the discussion, because I know that it can have an impact. I mean, and I'll actually ask you guys this at the end or at some point here, but we always kind of have this like running like desert island. You can take one supplement with you, one song, and one exercise. What would you
Ooh,
take?
one
Right?
song?
Yeah, ponder
That's
that.
good.
I know, right? Because you're on a desert island. It's the only song you get. Same thing with supplements, which I'm going to ask that of you guys. But before I forget, because I feel bad because I'm making lots of eye contact with you and I skipped you, but we got all the Metcon, StrengthCon, body, full movement stuff. You get to do all the big like horsepower things.
Yeah. So realistically, humans are humans.
Right.
We take a little bit different of an approach. Our brigade commander's super bought in to the extent where he tells the soldiers, you will. This is H2F. It's really good for us. We like it. You will do it. And they say, yes,
Yes,
sir. Or they say, yes, sir, and turn around and try to do something else. So, and it's great to the extent of at bare minimum, we've opened up the lane for conversation.
Right.
Because I see where a lot of the folks who are pushing back against it come to us and say, I don't like this. I don't like training this way. I don't like being made to do things. I always had, the rest of my day is dictated by somebody else with a rank.
Right.
PT was my time to do what I wanted to do. And I can completely understand that. If you're doing dumb things that hurt yourself and others, you get that privilege taken away for a little bit. And realistically, it's large scale adult PE. We're teaching you how to,
sounds like grade school PE,
right? Yeah, but we're teaching you how to exercise. We're teaching you, and it's different because as we get coaches in, and as we go from brigade level back to battalions, and can kind of individualize things a little bit more. These PT plans are going to look different within the different units. Just like if you're working with a cavalry unit versus if you're working with field artillery. Field artillery is like working with world's strongest man. They carry large rounds up to 400 meters at a time between weapons. Cool.
Yeah.
That's my wheelhouse.
That's
I'd love
like
to work with a
big
unit
dumb
like
mammal
that.
stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Or like I have my infantry guys or my cavalry guys who are like, cool, we're going to run from here to the mountain and maybe run back. Oh, we're going to hike to the summit at the same time. And then we're going to fight a war while we're doing it. Like, okay, that's your job.
Also
I understand.
cool.
So, and right now we're trying to just similar to what they're doing, blanket PT plan. If you're doing our training in the morning, you're going to get better. And we're seeing a lot of positive coming back from that. The reality is a lot of the folks who we're kind of a bell curve program. We're killing the middle.
Yeah.
Now we need to figure out how to get outside of it.
Yeah. And ramp it up for the ones on each
Yep.
end for without
it's
leaving the ones behind.
bring up
but
the
then-
bottom end,
Yeah.
and figure out how to capture that top end and get them bought in.
Yeah.
Because I mean, the reality is, if at a certain level, 3 sets of 5 back squat, overhead press, and deadlift isn't going to do it anymore.
Well, I like that it's both sides are incorporating the balance of like, yes, we got to be fit, we got to be functional. We talked about 2Ks and like I got to be able to do things consistently and heart rate variability and get to where I can get from A to B to C to D distance wise to get the job done, right? But then at the same time, sometimes you got to pick up heavy stuff.
Yep.
Sometimes you got to pick up heavy stuff and know that your back's not going to blow apart. So
Well,
if all you were doing was burpees all day long, and then all of a sudden I'm telling you to go, whatever, make an Atlas stone type lift where it's something heavy like a 400 pound. And if you're not ready for that, you're not ready for it. Like that, it's awesome on just the nerd side of like, oh, you get to do all the things with all the people all the time. And
When Alycia alluded to it, but like the differences between brigades as well. I'm feet on the ground combat arms, they're aviation. We have engineers on this installation. We've got a variety of MOSs, of jobs, of different types of soldiers. And yes, humans are humans. They require specific things. But in reality, if you're a desk jockey, for lack of a better term, you don't
hard to motivate on that.
5 mile run doesn't really mean that much to you.
Yeah.
Like it does a guy with a Ranger tab on his shoulder.
Right. That's a good point, because not everybody's created equal, but not all jobs or expectations are equal.
Absolutely.
So that's totally fair. You mentioned that between the different brigades and everything. Any in-house competition? I mean, is there? Because I mean, I think about you're coaching football. It's like
We call ourselves
defense?
the A team.
Rightfully earned, I'm sure.
I don't know about that.
We're first brigade for a reason.
Okay. So there is that basic, because like with football, you've got offense, defense, and you got special, teams,
So
you get positional
yes,
stuff.
it's hard because we're the same team.
And that's just like, that's what I was getting at with football is like your linemen are always going to be your big, strong guys, right? But then you're going to have guys that are going to want to compete, with the speed stuff. And it's like, everybody's got to do their job so you can move the ball forward. In this case, fight if need be. But even with that, there's still that internal pride of like, no, we got this. We got this. We're better than that.
We're taking care of our people.
Yeah.
End of the day, the same honestly, the same pushback we get from soldiers who don't want to work with us of you're taking my ability to work with my guys away from me. It's the same reality of they work, I work with a different brigade, but you care about what you're doing. It's just pride in your job and pride in what you're doing, because at the end of the day, like we're taking care of humans.
Right.
We're trying to do our best to help enrich people's lives.
And the bell rings, we all go together.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
I thought you were talking about like between battalions
That too.
within.
Yes.
Okay.
That's what I thought too.
Yeah. And that's where,
Yeah.
but that was good because that was like global, like 30,000 foot, like the
Like
whole,
that.
but no, within that group, like even like be like positional competitions. Like you've got, I got to assume that there's a little bit of that going too.
I feel like so that's something that like we've discussed for sure in like our team meetings and stuff. I think just logistically, we want to do that once the other strength and conditioning coaches get on ground, and we can actually have people at those individual battalions. Because again, it goes back to that ratio of like 2 to 2,700, or like even there's 2 dietitians and 2 like nutrition educators, so like even 4 to 27 or 2,700.
It's the most ideal ratio.
It is. Out of all the H2Fs, we definitely have one of the most ideal.
Yeah, it sounds like you have exactly twice as much.
Yeah. But I think once, I don't know, Alycia, you have other thoughts on that?
So across battalion, so we have, but we're super fortunate at to have an absolutely incredible brigade command team. They, across the board, since we've been here, they've been nothing but supportive. Like, how can we help you? The space that we're in right now, this weight room, they were like, hey, like, let's create a space for you guys to actually do your job. Like, they've been heavily invested in us, so that's actually allowed us to move the needle forward as fast as we have. And so we would not be where we are without their support. So with all of that, like, they've come to us and say, hey, like, let's create, this LPD's leader program, professional development. LPD, leader professional development. Now I know.
You remember the acronym? That's the important part.
Learn new things every day.
Everything here is an acronym. H2F is an acronym.
You can speak in acronyms.
You could.
Did we go over what H2F was?
I think Alycia briefly breezed through it.
Holistic health and fitness.
2 H's with an F at the end.
Yep, that's the one. So like what we've done is with various kind of LPDs that have been kind of come up, like, we'll work with the command teams, and we'll create in-house workouts where our brigade commander will bring over, all the company commanders, and they'll go through a workout together, but in that workout, they're all competing.
Okay.
So we'll do that a lot. We've done a couple different readiness day events where within, a company, they'll break up into different teams like 2 or 4, and they'll have to run up a hill, do a buddy carry here, do hand release push-ups here, like, and just create events where guys are working together. So we've done a lot of that, and we've kind of, in conjunction with nutrition, kind of created like okay, you're going to go work out, and now you're going to sit and learn about kind of different nutrition principles and get your body comp done. So then you have a better understanding of, like, 1, what H2F is, 2, the services we provide, 3, you got to compete and suffer and do things as a group, which everyone likes. And there's also an educational component. So we're killing multiple birds with one stone. So we've been super fortunate to, like, start to do some of that. And I think as we continue to grow, there will be more opportunities for, as Paul said, to do stuff either like across companies within a battalion or across battalions within the brigade.
I like that because it's positive growth, right? Positive competition. People get worried about, well, if we compete for something, it's going to put one person down. No, it's when you've got like an actual team, everybody steps up. Just today might be your day. Tomorrow might be his day, and then everybody can keep, but it also gives you those kind of pseudo standards, especially if you're repeating, maybe not the exact same task, but at least something similar enough to now they've got the skill set. Like, oh, I haven't seen this exact workout or fitness challenge before, but I've got enough foundational movements that I can go do this thing and be successful with it. And then hopefully, by that point, they've also figured out, like, oh, well, if I only sleep 3 hours and I don't eat well and I'm not hydrated, I'm probably going to suck in the challenge tomorrow. So maybe next time I do better, I go to bed earlier and I get enough fuel in my face.
Yeah. And like with our sergeant major and brigade commander too, like we've started this thing where it's called newcomer PD. PT.
I don't know.
Newcomer something.
I just show up.
And so basically what it is
awesome.
everyone
I'm
that's
just here so I don't get fined.
Yeah. Just here to be here. But like what
like this podcast, I don't know. I just show up to shit. Do
we
stuff
did see Paul in the hallway and say, please come join the podcast, and Paul said yes, so here we are.
What's it called? This is a podcast.
It's the podcast. It's today's podcast.
You don't even need to worry about the name. You're just here.
All right.
But yeah, so we've started. I think it's newcomer PT. But basically, everyone's new to the brigade will come in the morning and they'll do a workout with myself, with Sergeant Major, with our brigade commander, our CW5, so Chief Warrant Officer, and then
we usually do it too.
And Paul does it too. I don't have to. I just run it. But they'll do that together. And then what they'll come in and do is basically like an in-processing. Everyone's going to get their body comp done. Everyone's going to go through a movement screen. Everyone kind of goes through like occupational therapy like checklists, like just to talk about kind of, hey, like personal things. And so that kind of gives us a better idea of,
Do you like unicorns?
basically. Yeah.
Rainbow maned unicorns.
Rainbow Dash all day long.
Oh my god.
My favorite. Anyway.
I'm not tracking.
Him and I, we got this. Yeah,
Okay.
it's an
You said you're
in-the-table
having a
thing.
son?
I am.
Yeah, you won't track it then.
Okay.
I have 2 daughters.
Gotcha.
So,
Gotcha.
So we're all about everything. My Little Pony, Barbie, Frozen.
okay.
Both my daughters are blond hair, blue eyed, so Frozen
Yeah.
is big in our
Perfect.
house.
They obviously look like their mother. Thank God.
Absolutely. Believe it or not.
Yeah.
I don't know. Paul's got blonde hair though. Is there a story
Are
there?
you my children's mother?
I'm uncomfortable.
So you got the. I literally actually have a. Awesome.
How old are they?
4 and 1.
It's like, oh no!
I wasn't in this part of the country at that
22.
point.
I wasn't in this state.
Everything's
I don't
fine.
know.
Everything's fine.
Everything's fine.
We're
We're
fine
good.
here. Everything's fine.
Okay.
How are you?
Should I like move over there so you two can sit next to each other?
No, I think we're
I
in a
am-
good. I
We're in a
should have
good-
got a chair with a back though. That was feeling nice right now. I'm trying to like.
You can go grab a chair.
No,
we can do this. This is all
I
organic.
need to work on my posture.
Right,
I'm told I have
that's-
poor posture.
Yeah, I
so.
do.
Fuck that. I got a chair.
Full disclosure, Paul is 25. And
I'm
he's
26 now. I grew another year older.
Huge difference.
You grew
But in
another
COVID
year.
years, you're like 39 now.
but
Oh,
yeah.
don't say that.
just like let it be known that
Makes me
Paul is the
feel
one
old.
complaining about seating right now. And you're the
You're
youngest
the
here.
I would call that an
youngest in the
observation.
group.
I wouldn't say it's-
Mm.
It's an observation of
Yeah.
it would be
Of
easier.
discomfort.
Observation of discomfort.
Slightly uncomfortable.
Slightly uncomfortable.
not-
Not unicorns. On your
Yes.
in your intake screening, you
Yes.
mentioned a couple times body comp. What do you guys do for body comp? And then the mobility stuff, is it FMS or something FMS based?
So we actually
She loves the overhead squat.
Oh, that's a hefty topic we're not going to get into today.
That's my worst lift.
She absolutely hates the
Why-
FMS
why-
overhead
Feet,
squat.
toes out.
I just have poor shoulder
Go snatch
mobility.
grip.
You can't in the FMS.
All right. So background of this discussion is Zach and I had I had a debate with someone on like social media about like
Always a good place to start a discussion.
The best.
about like FMS and like whether you should use it as like a screening tool or should not use it. And so Zach and I got into it one day and I said I didn't like the overhead squat as a movement because if you're not good at it and you just do the FMS a couple times, you learn how to overhead squat,
Right.
suddenly you
Well,
get
three.
better.
Yeah.
And it's like, how are you gauging that? So I don't like it as
Whoa,
like a
we'll call it a 2. Not
Two
not
plus.
many 3s in the world these days.
But so I was like, I don't like using the overhead squat as like a movement screens. But what we've done is our physical therapists we've kind of come up with these are certain metrics that we're looking for.
Okay.
So, and if they don't pass that, or if they, are failing body comp, then they're required to either one, come and see us at lunchtime to kind of work on those movement discrepancies, shall we say, and then 2, make appointments with the nutritionist to kind of get back on.
he is
on
a
track.
dietitian. How dare
Sorry.
you?
Dietitians.
So that was like a huge debate in the nutrition world. I don't pay attention
Is
to
there
much
a
of
difference?
They're,
I'm pretty sure I can get a
think there's a
nutritionist
difference.
certification with a credit card in a
Yeah.
weekend, and
Oh.
he has to go to school to become a dietitian.
So,
Sorry,
but right
you're
now,
fancy.
so they changed the name. It's registered dietitian nutritionist now.
so
Yeah,
they're just
so
making
it's all-
call
everybody
me a
happy.
nutritionist if you want.
RDN.
Yeah.
basically you
Yeah.
can program and prescribe a diet.
Honestly, I don't know what the difference is besides I went to 6 years of school and they spent 48 hours in an online course. Is kind of the
Totally
difference.
different.
$500, 48 hours. I'll go that route.
Don't eat
Yeah,
cake.
yeah.
Sorry.
Hey.
Everything's fine.
Yeah, no. So for to be a RDN, you have to take a national credentialing
Right.
exam, obviously, and then you have to have at least an undergraduate. In 2022, it changes to a master's. So all
Okay.
those people that snuck in under
Tomorrow.
that, was
It's
nice
kind of
for
like
them.
physical therapy is going to a doctorate only. You can't
Yep.
do masters at it
Mhm.
anymore. They all have to go to
Well, and
doctorate.
athletic
Yeah.
training is the same way. Athletic
Yeah.
training is an entry level master's degree now.
Right.
Even
Jeez.
for us here in the strength and conditioning world, like, and I think having a master's is great, but honestly, at the end of the day, it's like you went to school and you got a piece of paper. It's not necessarily indicative of like your coaching ability. So I think I struggle with that a little
Yeah.
bit of like we're using. Yes, it's important you went to school. Yes, you got a secondary education. Yes. But like for strength and conditioning as a whole, if you can't coach, right, and you can't relate to someone and you can't identify things and change them in a way that like makes sense to the person that's in front of you, it doesn't matter whether you have a master's degree or not. Like you kind of
And-
you have to
yeah,
get your
and-
elbows dirty.
One of my the best coaches I know has a bachelor's of business.
Yeah.
And runs a phenomenal gym.
Yeah.
I know many coaches with master's degrees.
Yeah.
Who suck at their job.
They come out and they can answer the CSCS is an interesting one because we'll get the new ones, out in the field, and it's like, oh, da 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 da. I'm like, I read the same textbook. I read the same stuff. And that doesn't work. Yes, you're going to pass the test. The answer is correct for the test, but the answer is not correct for this little thing we call reality, and you don't know shit about stuff. So let's go to the next person.
When I first got on ground here, the former coach at one of the special operations units here, he was my college strength coach.
Yeah.
And so I leaned on him a lot, used his experiences, and he goes, have you read the TSAC book? Now that there's a certification for tactical strength. And I was like, yeah, I have it. I've read through it. He goes, cool. Even in that book, 90% of what works at the unit level isn't in a textbook because they think it's stupid and isn't going to work.
Right.
But the reality, like we've talked about, is we're going to have a group of 150 soldiers show up with enough equipment to train 20 of them. So we're going to create a workout that trains all the qualities we need to train with what we have.
Yeah, figure it the frick out.
Absolutely.
Yeah, and I think like that, the ability to be able to do that comes down to like you need to have experience just getting your elbows dirty.
Yeah.
Like spend time interning, work, and like we're very fortunate here because technically we only really are supposed to work a 40-hour work week, but like.
And as far as the government is concerned, we do only work 40-hour work weeks.
Listening.
Exactly.
However, we love to volunteer our time for extracurricular activities.
This is service to my country right now.
But like it, go to an internship where you're going to be under some amazing mentors and work that 80-hour week, but you're going to learn and get stuff out of it. Like that will help you, I think, far more than like a master's degree.
Or going to another course.
Right. Like, for me being at the University of Denver, being under Matt Shaw, Tim Murray, like Gary Boros, like
I went to DU.
Did you really?
Undergrad and grad school.
No way.
Yeah.
Wow.
Such
a small world.
If you live west of the Rockies, it's pretty small. We're all spread out.
This is true. But like being under them was a huge game changer because I realized very quickly how much I didn't know. And it was a very humbling experience within like the first 3 weeks. I literally went, oh fuck. Like you don't know half as much as you think you know, but that also was huge for me because I wouldn't be successful here if I didn't go through that and get to work at 5 and leave sometimes like 7:30, 8.
When you got there, full transparency, did you think you knew a lot?
I thought I knew everything.
Yeah.
My head was super big.
They do a good job of that in school.
It's still big.
Well, I can see the hoodie. It's like Jedi size. Like
honestly,
oh my
if
Lord.
you put it on,
she's got Sith Lord for days.
Looks like Sith Lord right
yeah,
here.
that's pretty. Yeah.
Pretty cool.
You feel like you knew a lot after the CSDS?
No, I'm saying
Okay,
I
don't feel like I know
I 100% did. I was on top of the world.
Yeah.
I was stoked.
ready.
Oh
I'm like
man.
everyone as jacked as me.
And then I think I hurt somebody that like had a kid get a hernia the first day and went, what the fuck am I doing?
Yeah.
Who gave me the keys to this car?
Yeah.
This is bad. I think I'm not don't have a ton of experience still. Like I'm probably in year, I think you're 6, 5, somewhere in there. So I'm still
the
pretty young.
accumulated hours though. It's I kind of make this analogy of like, and we've heard the 10,000 hour rule, right? I mean, you hear it all the time. 10,000 hours to be expert. No. 10,000 hours to create a motor pattern. You might be creating the wrong motor pattern.
Absolutely, yeah.
But it's the time, right? It's putting the time in. So whether it takes you 25 years because you're doing it part-time 3 hours a day, or you do it in 6 years because you're doing 80-hour weeks, 52 weeks a year, like you can get that knowledge, and it's not an age-based thing; it's an experience-based thing.
Yeah.
On the I mean, especially in this environment where it's like you have 26-year-olds in charge of large groups of people. Why?
Yeah.
Because they've been deployed twice, and it's like they've got time on the ground and experience. So
And
they run a 12-minute 2 mile, and it's phenomenal.
Yeah, I don't even drive that fast for 2 miles. But that's interesting because I hear that a lot from people who've gone the full academic route and didn't necessarily have a different career path before that. Other like I've got some other friends that they're either law enforcement or PD or former military, and it's like they go into the fitness side and training side after that, and so they go in with the whole like I know I'm gonna take this class, I know I'm not gonna know shit.
Yeah.
I got a pretty good idea about a few things for myself, but how do I then apply that to everybody else? And your entire job is now applying that to everybody else. Whether it works for you or not is irrelevant.
Yeah. I mean, I think in full transparency, the first couple years of my career, I think, I thought very highly of myself. I thought I had all the answers. I thought I knew everything. too good for this, too good for that. You know, there was an internship over the summer that I was actually like got asked to leave just because, I ran my mouth too much, did the wrong things, said the wrong things, this, that, and the other thing. And I've been super fortunate to have mentors that have very much been like, you need to pull your head out of your ass.
That's a good mentor.
No, it's amazing. And I'm still very fortunate to have them in my life today. But I think Denver was one of those where I went in and was like, okay, like you've been here for a couple years now, like this, that, and the other thing. And so I had a presentation on, why am I blanking? Prilipin's chart.
Okay.
And I went in being like, okay, like I'm went through it, was like, thought I knew what I was talking about. And then I just got embarrassed in that meeting. And it's like, it's Prilipin chart, like you should probably know it, but I think I was very overconfident in my delivery, and then I tried rushing to answer the question that was being asked without actually like absorbing it. And I went home that night and was like, you're not nearly as smart as you think you are. And so that was huge for me to kind of be like, okay, like,
but having that
we're now
realization
here.
actually means you're smarter than you think you are, because a lot of people take their ego and they can't, and you probably see this a lot. I know you've seen this. I know you've seen it with football, because you get guys that want to be right, and it's all ego. They have to be. It's just they can't get past themselves with, you know. I've got. It might even be a fault of mine, but like I don't honestly give two rips who has the right answer. I just want the right answer. If 2 + 2 is 4, I don't care if you get to it and I couldn't figure it. It doesn't matter. 4, right? And that's how I've always kind of looked at, especially training and fitness and things like that. It's like the end goal is what's important. You know, getting on the field, that's what's important. Who gets what part of that? It doesn't have to be me. It doesn't have to be you. But as long as it's correct, I don't care who has it. And a lot of people can't handle that.
Yeah.
It's like they want to have all of it, and they want to be the savant of all things, you know, especially fitness and strength training. And my buddy Wolf, my favorite saying, he's like, nothing new in fitness has been invented since the Greeks. Like, you know, Olympic lifting is Olympic. Like, no, it's just how do you package it? You know, Orange Theory isn't revolutionary. It's just a different lick and stick branding. You know, it's CrossFit, even the same thing. They made super awkward terminologies like snatch a popular term in the lexicon, because now people are like, oh, snatch, clean and jerk. You know, nobody knew what that was pre-CrossFit, really.
Yeah.
I mean, other than
It meant something different pre-CrossFit.
it definitely still means something.
Yeah, it really just depends how you phrase
CrossFit
it.
terms that are maybe on the naughty list. But I mean, unless you were a thrower or a power lifter or a strength athlete, like a true strength athlete, I'm not talking like being a strong athlete, but like lifts, throws,
throwing.
you didn't know any of that
Yeah.
stuff. You know, now it's become something that's incredibly well, at least exposure wise. People might not know. They might not walk in and be like, oh, I know what I'm doing, but at least they'll be like, oh, I've seen that before. I watched, you know, Tia do it in the CrossFit game.
Yeah, absolutely.
Like that.
Yeah.
And that's, I mean, I would think that would help. I mean, your timing's good too for having that kind of epiphany at the same time as coming into this wheelhouse of like, oh, a little bit more exposure of your client base to lots of different fitness things. Plus, quite frankly, people have seen the proof in the pudding of like, hey, metabolic conditioning, interval training, heart rate variability, that stuff works really well. It's super efficient. And which is the part that I really am interested in too, is you don't get hurt as much as opposed to, you know, think about like the old, I mean, I love, you know, Louis Simmons and Westside Barbell and stuff, but it's like, man, you either break
Or you're the best.
or you're the best. Like there's no delta. The delta there is an infinite chasm. It's like you either survive or you're broken for life. And that's how it used to be. Or the bodybuilding side. It was all, high rep, high volume, get, not a lot of practice. Ronnie Coleman changed a lot of that with his, strength training side. And then
800-pound squats on YouTube. Yeah.
But that changed the game. And then everybody was jamming into strength training stuff and supplementing with enhanced supplements.
There's
but
some good stuff.
It was
out there.
Still some great stuff.
There's some great stuff out there.
But
Super effective.
The mindset has changed.
Yeah.
You don't have the 80s Gold's Gym only type thing where it's weird to be in a gym, let alone for a female to be in a gym. Like, I mean, I don't know how many women are on base and then how many train, but I would presume that it is more male than female.
I think we're like 88% Army wide is male.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So it would not be weird to see a woman come in and do one of these workouts today. 25 years ago, you'd be like, wait, what? I mean, even the gyms were built that way, where
Yeah.
the
Oh,
studios
the
were-
women's area.
Yeah.
That's like
Yeah.
an elliptical and 3 machines.
yeah,
and
or
some
the
stretch
spin, the spin
mats.
studio, or
Yep.
the step class, or whatever, and that was nowhere near the things with the weights and the plates and the strength training gear.
Yeah.
So
Mm-hmm.
your timing was good for getting into the game, but then, I mean, again, kudos for being like, oh, I'm not as ready as I thought I was.
I think, and like I had been in strength and conditioning for probably 3-4 years at that point, somewhere around there. And so the coaches at Denver just coached better. And I can't really describe it, but they saw things that I wasn't seeing. Their programming had a much deeper thought process than anything I had really considered before. And it was super humbling just to be like, you're on the floor with someone who's seeing things that you're looking at, this movement pattern and the shape, and you're like, what is going on? What am I missing? Or like when we're doing program reviews, it's an entirely different way of just kind of working through, okay, we're going to do this first, and then we're going to do this, and then we're going to do this. And this is why we're doing X, Y, and Z to try to create this, or try to get this adaptation at this time of the year based off like what they're doing in or out of season.
Right.
So it was just a much higher level of thought process that I hadn't really been exposed to before. And then being on the floor, I think that's where I learned it the most, of like, when you're on the floor with Tim Murray and he's coaching people, you're on the floor with Matt Shaw and he's coaching people, and they're coaching things that you're like, I can't even see this, right? That kind of puts a fire under your butt of like, oh, you actually want to be good at this thing. You're going to have to put a lot more time and effort into learning, and spending time outside of work, like learning these things so you can kind of maybe do half of what they're doing right now.
Yeah.
So that was huge. And I think it set me up very well for this position right now. But yeah, I walked in with my head very, very big, and I walked out of there, I think, a different person, which is a good thing.
That is a good thing. It's also good you didn't quit, because a lot of people can get deflated like that and just be like, I can't do this. I'm not, they'll just throw in the towel and be like, it's
Yeah.
too hard. It's like, no, it's supposed to be hard.
Yeah, no, and I tell people this all the time, like, being in Denver was one of the best and worst experiences of my life. It was one of the best experiences because I learned so much. It was one of the worst because I walked out of there every day being like, what the fuck? Like, dead ass. Like, I'd get home, I'd sit on the couch and be like, what just happened? So it was a really, really good thing. I was very uncomfortable every day. I was challenged every day. And so from a growth standpoint, I think I grew more in that 7-month period, just being around the level of coach that they were. So all good things.
And that barrier to entry, which I like that, even here you can't get it without, I mean, even CSCS is a basic, right? But that's still a hurdle that's going to cost you some significant cash and time just to get the basic, right? And then to be able to get to start that journey outside of these fences and walls and in the anybody can go hang a shingle, and if they're really good at online marketing or Instagram or Insta Fitness or what, you could be giving somebody the exact wrong thing to do. I mean, by the book definition, the wrong thing for them to do, it doesn't matter because you sell it better because you're, it's like the two of us sitting here next to each other. He looks way better than I do.
Being hot helps.
Exactly. Being a good looking guy with really good hair as opposed to,
great hair.
Right?
Thanks.
I mean, it's
thanks.
phenomenal.
Appreciate it.
Phenomenal.
I keep trying to what's fucked up about it?
The fact you had
nothing
that reaction.
Nothing. She's
I'm
just
just trying to read what you say.
She's taking a free rent in
It
your
was
head
all
now.
fine, and then it wasn't.
I live there.
No, I keep on trying to shave it. My wife keeps telling me I can't. So
It's more aerodynamic.
yeah,
You move through the day faster.
it's just easier.
So I put my hat
It's
on.
I don't have to
easier.
buy fucking gel.
Facts.
You know
Those
what I
are
mean?
fa- Oh,
Like,
yes.
when
I
Do
you
do.
you
about-
have to gel your hair? Because I see a number of, especially, I mean, broad generalization. Most of the officers I've worked with don't.
Oh yeah, my hair does not like flow like this.
Okay.
Yeah, no, 100%. So I spend X amount of dollars on probably
How many?
$15 a month times. It's really not that
Times.
much.
It's not bad.
I tried to.
It's an
lay
inconvenience.
Yeah, I tried to I tried to lay the math out for my wife, and she's like, "Yeah, we spend more on that on like our freaking
Wait till
watering our
diapers, my
lawn
friend.
and the diapers, right?
Just wait.
So, but anyhow,
Well, and that's so you've got that experience, right? And you're coming in kind of the other side where you've, as a strength athlete, primarily, right? Learning and knowing how to apply strength at an extreme level i.e. powerlifting or throwing in particular, because you have to be so explosive. That works really well for that. But then to have to translate some of that stuff over to what I would call normal people, because there's a different mindset there a little bit, whereas she's going to be able to be a little bit more broadly applied with a bigger, wider brush stroke coming out of the gate. You know, you're already niche because you're throwing a hammer, which, you know, other than Thor, no one knows anybody's name that throws a hammer on a regular basis. And then coming into the strength game, like, okay, I've got this background of all that, but then wheeling into, you know, CS to make yourself.
So I can tell you through, I guess, just my grooming in strength and conditioning, I had the opportunity to work coming from a small university. Like, I had 7 strength coaches in my 5 years of athletics.
Yeah, that's a little rough.
Yeah, and even from the time I worked, Eastern Washington University was my longest tenured place in 2 instances outside of this job, and we had 7 different staff combinations the entire time I was there, between graduate assistants leaving, new interns, guys leaving, full-time
coaching
leaving,
staff,
all together. So I've had the variety to work with and under a ton of different individuals, and always having to pick up a different sport. So like, I was an intern, we had coaches leave, I got handed cross country, golf, and the jumpers for track and field. Oddly enough, as a thrower, the jumpers lift at 9, the throwers lift at 10. So like, I just get to weights an hour early and write a program, coach, and I had very patient sport coaches I got to work with who dealt with the growing pains of, like, you're a thrower running our cross country weights program, kid gets a hernia the first day of weights, what the hell is going on? Yeah. So like, then that's just, it's part of the game of, like, we're not, like, I'm a hammer, I still am 100%, look at me, I'm a hammer thrower to this day, competed in weightlifting after that. So still things that are in my wheelhouse, but also just kind of having the humility to step outside your comfort zone and say, like, I fucking suck at running. Yeah. So like, and now I work with soccer. How am I going to program this aerobic thing? Cool. Let me pick this assessment that matches the demands of their game. I'm going to run it. I'm going to write a program and put myself through it for the next 8 weeks, which is the same amount of time we're going to have in the preseason. Right. And then we're going to see what it does to me. Okay, I had phenomenal results because I went from turning in a circle to running every day. So now let's see the adaptation I can get with my girls. Right. And that's that. I come, you know, I have a lot of great mentors, many of which have gone above and beyond. Like I said, my old strength coach was here with special operations. One of my old bosses works in pro hockey now. We've got, I have a great circle of people I can talk with. And all of them have never been afraid to go, you're fucked up and you need to fix it.
Yeah, this is stupid. Yeah. Or you blew this.
Or like, dude, they're not throwers. You like, I had a boss tell me one day straight up, you've been my demo guy for every lift, every time we've worked together for a reason. However, why do you think you never demo field work? Yeah. Maybe it's time to start working on those things. And so like, I didn't have necessarily as aggressive an experience as she did, where like you leave every day with somebody tore your head off because you sucked, but I'd get the little jabs here and there of like that. Hey dude, I need you to demo field work. And then it looks like shit and I never get asked to do it again.
The ones that cut deep.
Yeah. Well, hey, I need you to be more athletic next time. And I'm like, well, I was Division I athlete. It's like, no, you were a thrower. Let's get that straight. So like those things existed in my career as well. And it's just been the matter of fucking figure it out.
Right. FITFO. I mean, that's my favorite saying is like, figure it the fuck out. You were going there?
Well, I just think, like, I don't know. I think that's one of the most important, like, teachers is failing. Right. Right. Like you need to fail because that's what you learn. And so I think like having these moments where like you're messing up, or like, as much as it sucks for a kid to get hurt, we never want that. But that also is a very important lesson of like, once it happens once, and like your first kid that like you somehow gotten hurt or this, that, and the other got hurt under your watch, like you'll never forget it. Yeah. Because it's, you won't. Like,
8 years later. Cross-country kid with a hernia.
I mean, it's seared in there, right? You don't remember all the successes. I mean, I'm sure you can't recall any of the PRs, you know, from individual people that maybe did something huge, but you can definitely remember instantaneously, like, oh, I remember when this kid did this, or this guy did this, or this, you know, this one, whatever, or you know, especially if it's a programming issue where it's like, oh, they ended up with a, you know, torn hamstring because I did this and I should have done this, or I know better now, or collectively we all know better now that maybe they weren't properly feeding their system and they weren't recovered enough, and I'm pushing and not doing the other piece of the component, which is like, oh, you're not sleeping, you're not eating you're not fueling enough to do this level of training.
Overstressed, overstimulated,
overtraining, right? I mean, that's been the biggest thing, is like trying to get, at least in my world is like, you've got people that decondition, don't do anything. Then you've got hyper alphas that are a lot of them in the police, fire, medical, where it's like go, 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 go. Everything literally is an emergency. And when they get to the gym, everything's like that too. It's like, how many, you worked a double. You've slept 3 hours in the last 2 days, and now you want to come in and hammer this workout? No. And then learning to say no and be like, no, back it down. Let's just, let's
Go ride the assault bike. It's 75% max output for 20 minutes and go home.
Well, and the thing that works well for a lot of what we do, I've gotten a lot of people bought in. If it's not the Whoop, it's at least the Apple, but where they're like tracking their heart rate variability. And it's like, oh, look at your, especially at the Whoop, because you get so much good data. Look at your rest and recovery. It's dog shit. So now you're going to go overtrain this. Same kind of thing. Give me 6 months with this, with all sorts of the recovery data. And we're going to train based on what your body's telling you is not going to be detrimental, and then see where you're at. And then, of course, they come back because I'm cheating. I've got data. And it's like, yeah, I get to use all this information against you, kind of. But then it's really just to get them to buy into where it's like, oh, if I don't run myself into the ground 24/7, then I don't have the big time off where because I'm broken something or I'm just so dinged I can't move.
Yeah.
And now I'm more consistent. And it might be 30, 40 days in a row at 70% instead of 2 days at 90, 3 days at 0 because I'm busted, where your average now is considerably higher over that window. And I got to think that, especially in this context where you have a captive audience, they can go places, but they're all here, that would be probably the biggest advantage is that you've got a group that you can continually have touch points with as long as they're bought in, which it's, a lot of it is. But then again, taking that holistic approach of all that programming, all that background, not getting people hurt, and then, hey, I'm doing all this right. I still feel like shit, and then they're knocking on your door, or they're knocking on your door, or it's the the mental health side, or the PT side, because even with all the perfect training and everything else, there's still stuff going. Your engineers and your mechanics, they're still doing things,
doing jobs.
Your guys are they're flying a helicopter. Well, okay, shit happens. People fall. You ruck, and why does my back hurt? Well, you just carried 60 pounds for 12 miles.
Yeah.
And with all that, do you trying to think how to ask this without maybe, I don't think it's out of bounds. I would assume even just anecdotally, you see injury rates have gone down.
Oh, we haven't measured.
Oh, okay.
That was one thing. So I was lucky enough to get here early.
Right.
Like H2F pilot, here we are. And that early on, we identified, hey, we really, really need to keep an eye on how often they show up and availability to train. Because the reality of the military community, and I'm sure is the same thing with the police, fire, and medical, you don't have free time every single day.
Right.
Some days you go to the field, some days you work a double, so whatever it may be. So how available are they to train? Are they taking advantage of that availability? And what do our injury rates look like? Yeah. And when we started to see things move in favor of our message, running a correlation on Excel isn't that hard, and especially big Army is all about data.
Right.
If you can give them objective data, because we're not here to feel.
Right.
Thank you, Hunter. Sure. So, objective data wins the game, and that's why now H2F is doctrine, and like we're talking Army-wide H2F pilot. We showed enough positive correlation between better training, better sleep, better nutrition, reducing injury rates, reducing behavioral health things, whatever it may be, that now this is a thing instead of it being another Army attempt at, hey, we're going to change things. Oh, it didn't work. Well, we'll just keep doing push-ups, sit up, run.
It kills me to split this episode into two. I am literally having flashbacks to when I was in grade school and Han Solo just got frozen in carbonite. Boba Fett took him off, and now you got to wait for Return of the Jedi. I'm beside myself. But the good news is you only have to wait a week, whereas we had to wait like 2 years back in the day. Episode 4, Part 2, next Monday. Don't miss it. The epic conclusion to the two-parter with Alycia, Paul, and Zack up at JBLM. It's just as good as the front half, and quite frankly, we're going to end up turning this into a multi-episode series, I think, with everything going on up there. So, in the meantime, if you got some feedback or you got some questions that you want to share, please feel free to leave a review. We want to make this better every single week. So, fire away. Hit us on the DMs, comment in the comment section, and thanks again for taking the time this week, and we will see you for the epic Return of the Jedi level conclusion next Monday. Bye.